Can you put an image of an office on the LED wall?
I've displayed an image of a modern office on the LED wall.
That's KJ at Vu Studios. He's using AI to generate a background plate on this 13-foot LED wall by just speaking to it. This is a sneak peek at some of the new tech Vu is developing, rethinking what creating in a future of AI will look like. Or, as Tim Moore, their CEO, likes to say,
our vision is content at the speed of thought.
So Vu invited me to come over to their headquarters in Tampa to check out what they're working on. So I hopped on a plane, flew across the country, drove to an abandoned mall to get a sneak peek at the future of filmmaking. In this video, we'll look at an easier way to work in virtual production.
We're running an Unreal scene right now through the kiosk, so how is this working?
Rethinking how we interact and create with technology.
You really have to have a new way of communicating with technology. We believe those modalities are much more natural than the keyboard and mouse that most designers are used to.
To brainstorming with a smart AI wall in real time.
What happens when the room can understand the type of conversations you're having?
So yeah, what do we got going on with the reveal?
So behind this secret bookshelf is the reveal of the new technology we've been working on.
So before we head behind the bookshelf, we have to understand where Vu came from. Vu began as a production house called Diamond View. When the pandemic hit and production froze, they built their own virtual production stage to keep shooting. That pivot led to a complete shift and the launch of Vu. They eventually built 4 of their own stages, Tampa, Orlando, Nashville, and Vegas, and a network of nearly 100 other studios around the world and counting. But they knew stages were a finite business, which led them to start developing their own hardware and software.
If you look at the trajectory of Vu over time, we started in studios, and then we got into hardware, building all-in-one virtual production hardware.
You can see the groundwork for this vision back at our first interview with Vu at NAB in 2023. Over 2 years ago.
Something that we've been noticing and seeing is that technology is being increasingly decentralized, but eventually we believe that virtual production and this type of stuff is going to be happening in people's homes. And so we're just trying to take the first step into making it easier for the common person, the common filmmaker and artist to now begin creating those digital assets that they can just start creating now and quickly.
From big virtual production stages, this led to their first hardware product, the Vu.ai, a virtual production stage in a box that comes with all of the hardware and support you need to set up your own stage. But the Vu.ai is a pretty semi-permanent setup, so then they launched the Vu.ai Mini, a self-contained virtual production wall on wheels with built-in lighting, camera tracking, and an audio system so you can have a conversation with it. We did another video at Vu when they first announced the Mini, plus a follow-up at NAB this past year, so you can check out both of those videos to see the Mini in action. Now, on the surface, the Vu Mini is a portable virtual production wall that you can move around and film in front of. But Vu sees this as a smart AI computer of the future, something you can talk and point and interact with, a seamless way to create with AI, but more on that later in the video. Now, powering this hardware is the software Vu has been developing, Vu Studio.
And now we've gotten into the software platform, and that has a tremendous amount of scale.
The goal of Vu Studio is to make virtual production and content creation extremely easy for anyone, no matter their technical ability. Their latest version, Gen 3, brings a lot of features that enable that. So now that we've covered a little bit of Vu's backstory, let's focus on where they're going and what they showed us. First, 2 awesome sneak peeks with virtual production. The first is pixel mapping for image-based lighting. Now, that's just a fancy term for describing a way to control all of the lights on your set based on the environment of your video. Having all the lighting in your studio and on your subject match the environment in the background is key to selling the virtual production illusion. Now, imagine we see a wide shot of a campfire in the woods. And then if you come into a medium shot of me with a forest in the background, if I'm being lit by regular white LED lights, you'll instantly know that this is a fake setup and the suspension of disbelief is over. But if the light dims and the light from a fire flickers on my face, it sells the effect and makes the scene feel more realistic. Now, I just manually pulled up the fire effect on the Aperture app, and I'm using an Amaran light tube. But imagine if I could connect all of my lights in the studio to Vu and have them all update based on whatever the background image would be. That is image-based lighting.
You'll see the background light. What we're trying to do is get people to the final mile faster. So instead of having to adjust lights individually, with pixel mapping, you can get the light from the scene directly into the light on your stage. So you'll see here as I bring up the intensity, all of that is done by essentially choosing which region I want that light to be assigned to. So you'll see as I adjusted that light changes.
Is it like averaging out the value based on the area you're highlighting?
Yep.
The other big update is 3D scenes with Unreal Engine. Now, Vue software originally does 2D plates. You can load in existing images or video as a background plate or generate them with AI, and for a lot of shots, that is all you need. But sometimes you need a little bit more, like being able to move around a 3D space to have some environmental consistency. That's where Unreal Engine comes in.
So what we were trying to rethink is like, how do we launch Unreal on the LED wall? And most importantly, what people wanted to see was 3D content. Right, they wanted to see some content on the wall, but they wanted to kind of like navigate through it. We also thought about like, okay, Unreal, when you open up Unreal, it's like an arsenal of tools and features and things that, sometimes can be overwhelming. But what is it something that people actually want to do? We're still in Vue Studio software. And so now that I launched it, I'm able to change the sun, right? So as I'm navigating this, I'm able to change the time of day of this Unreal Engine environment. I'm able to rotate the sun if I wanted to. Right? Most importantly, I'm able to just navigate the world. I'm able to do certain things like I can rotate around, change the exposure, and certain things that you normally expect working with Unreal Engine.
The focus plane.
Yeah, focus planes and things like that. And honestly, so far, that's pretty much it. Like, this is the things that most of the time people are just requesting. And it's a tool, right? It's Unreal doesn't always have to be super complicated for our purposes of virtual production.
Now, this is still a beta, but the plan is for there to be an Unreal Engine plugin that will prepare the environment for Vue Studio, and then you can just load it onto your wall. They also see a future with a marketplace with available environments that you can go purchase, load on your wall, and they're ready to go. So now everything we've talked about so far has been tied into Vue's hardware, the Vue 1 or the Vue 1 Mini. But what if you already have your own LED wall or projector or display, but you want to use Vue's streamlined software? There are two new solutions coming out for that. One is Vue Core. This is a media server in a box that can connect and power any display and run all of Vue Studio's features. And the other is a completely web-only version of Vue Studio.
We do have a new browser-only version coming out, which means that from a laptop, you can cast to any smart TV, any display that can access the internet. Now you can do it without hardware. A lot of this is on the edge, it's in the cloud, and so the ability to generate visuals and stream them tab to tab or tab to TV or tab to large display, that's really where we see the future of this.
Now, there are some limitations with the browser-only version: 8K resolution limit, no lighting and camera control, and no camera tracking. Basically anything that you would need to interface with a local computer, you can't do with the web-only version. But you could do everything else that we've talked about in the browser version, including running Unreal Engine scenes. All right, now let's talk about AI. Vue's platform has always had a way to generate background plates, part of their ethos at being able to iterate and create quickly, but they have streamlined the process.
We have a generative tool called Vu.ai, and it allows you to simply talk to it. Let's create an office scene with bright window light and a red chair. And by doing this, you'll see it's took the input command, it's initializing. It's going to ask me a few questions. Do I want to make this a photo or video? Do I want to make it a looping video? And then being able to put that directly to the wall from Vu.ai is a new feature we have as well. Before you used to save it as an asset, now you can cast directly in here. Our thought's always been to create content at the speed of thought. You really have to have a new way of communicating with technology. And so you'll see with all the systems we deploy, we have a touch screen, we have voice activation, and we believe those modalities are much more natural than the keyboard and mouse that most designers are used to. And so like you would be on set with a director talking through a headset, we want to be able to talk to the technology the same way. And so this generation we just made, we can cast it to the screen, a brightly lit office with a red chair. And really what we see is, there are still too many seconds in between there. And so generation 3 is all about how can you instantly get it to the screen. And that's what we're currently working on now.
And is that a challenge with you on your end, or is that a challenge also just like the AI models in general and how fast they can generate?
Well, it's a challenge today, but it's really on the technology end, like how fast can we take the language, generate the image, get to the screen. That round trip we expect to be 1 to 2 seconds in the future. It's about 5 to 10 seconds now.
At a private demo for investors, Tim showed what this could look like, using Kriya's real-time image generation as a prototype.
I want to show you really quickly just how fast the AI models have gotten. What you're seeing here is an image-to-image restyler. You'll see as I move around, it's essentially making me into a robot here. But all this restyling is happening at the subframe level. And so you'll see here, every rendition of this is not actually me there, it's re-drawing me every frame. And this is a very interesting concept to understand because, for the past 10,000 years, humans have reduced ideas down to noise because it's a lot easier to make words than it is to draw pictures. It's sure a hell of a lot faster. But now computers can draw pictures as fast as we can talk. And in many cases, they can draw pictures faster than we can talk. And so what this is going to allow is a different type of communication, one where we could have a visual definition in the room, where there's no mistake or misunderstanding on what someone means. You can see it in real time.
This idea of removing the keyboard and mouse and just having a creative wall you can talk to is a new theme with Vu. But it's not just about creating images with your voice, it's about modifying and controlling every setting. Here's another demo from KJ having a conversation with the wall to just modify an existing image.
My image is a little bit bright, so can we go down by one stop?
The exposure's been adjusted down a stop.
Can we go up by one stop real quick?
Adjusted the exposure up by one stop. If there's anything else you need, just let me know.
And like a salty brain bar tech, you can also get tired of your repetitive requests.
Yeah, the image is a little bit brighter. Can we go down one stop, please?
Does it get tired of you?
Take care, KJ.
Yeah, I think it's
He like understood you. He's like, all right, I need to calm down.
Now, Vu sees the Mini and the software they're building as more than just a filmmaking tool. A large LED wall that you can talk and interact with in a shared environment can be powerful in a lot of industries, from education to consulting to tech and beyond. They showed me a few other features for the Vu in a more corporate environment.
A lot of times the LED wall is not always being used for virtual production. Yeah. A lot of times you're working with other different clients or you're using it for experiences and everything. So we have designed like a custom-made dashboard per user. So the idea is that with each user that you have in your studio, or people who rent out your studio or anything like that, you can have a very personalized experience. So for example, here, every time I come to a studio, I use this to like open up my personalized dashboard.
Is that also how the AI knew who you were? Because it was in the voice chat of saying, KJ, what do you want to do?
Exactly. It knows who I am. It knows the type of assets that I like to work with, as well as like a bunch of APIs, right? So like it could connect to your calendar, it could connect your meetings and things like that to try to understand you. And the whole goal is that like, this is a cool room, right? Anybody who has an LED wall, it feels grand, it feels immersive. So you want to walk into a place and feel welcomed by the technology.
Tim took this a step further, demoing this vision on their large LED stage at that private investor event.
What we see is that you walk into a room like this, it could be on a small display, medium display, and you would be able to generate in real time not only the data that you need to see, but the visual complement to that.
And KJ showed me another prototype on having a large LED wall in a meeting room with an interactive brainstorming tool.
We'll see that this sort of mind mapping experience comes up. And the whole idea of this is that we don't want to like present in a linear method. We want to be able to be fluid and experiment, right? Like, so if you and I right now are thinking about like, okay, how do we make virtual production easier for other people? We want the room to participate in that conversation, right? We want AI to be able to participate in that. And so this is kind of like what we're trying to explore here with this prototype. So all of these bubbles are popping up in real time based on the content that we are discussing right now. So it's using generative information and generative intelligence to be able to understand the data that it already has, and is using your voice as input to be able to understand where the conversation is going to.
And so like as you're talking, like more bubbles might pop up, or like with kind of branching off with different ideas.
Correct. Yeah. So like right now you see on the top right it says Vu.ai suggestion. So it say based on like this conversation that we're having, it'll be cool to show a market research, right? So you as a user can select whether or not you want to explore that way, right? It's almost like choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like you can always go that way with a conversation, or you can always kind of come back with a conversation, but the whole goal is that like these walls and these rooms that are used normally for production, people are now starting to use it for a lot more cooler things as well.
Yeah, this feels like bigger just for like larger corporations, like more uses out of the LED wall versus just like media creation.
Correct, yes, yeah, exactly.
The AI models, like how is it what models is it using, and how is it like figuring out what to use for what task?
Yeah, so we use a combination of open source models, right? So there's a lot of like the llamas and DeepSeek and different things like that. But what happens is we work with a lot of big enterprises too. So we always are working with AI models that they are used to using and are allowed to use. So we always switch it. We're not necessarily exclusive to a model. We're more agnostic depending on kind of like.
And so it can be
technology
switched
that
out
you
or
see.
updated in general, or also like based on the client and their needs.
Exactly, yeah. And then obviously there's so many cool applications and APIs and things like that that we're building on top of it, so that we can cater specifically to the virtual production and just people that love LED walls and conference rooms and enterprise clients and things like that.
Our vision is content at the speed of thought. We don't want to just make things faster. We want to collapse that time to where it's instant.
Thanks again to Vu for giving us a sneak peek at what they are working on. Let me know what you think about all of the tech that they demoed down in the comments below. And be sure to check out our other videos about Vu, like a deeper look at the Vu1 Mini and a tour of their studio in an abandoned shopping mall. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next episode.